did the garments of the common priest look like? This is the question, and we seek to answer today as we continue our verse-by-verse study of the book of Exodus on walking through the Bible.
Of his word, the glory of his cross.
If you have a Bible with you, you can turn to Exodus 28. We're going to be reading from verses 40 to 43. If you don't have a Bible, don't worry. Just follow along with us on the screen. The version that we'll be reading from is the New King James Version. So, Exodus 28, beginning at verse 40. For Aaron's sons you shall make tunics, and you shall make sashes for them, and you shall make hats for them, for glory and beauty. So you shall put them on Aaron your brother, and on his sons with him. You shall anoint them, consecrate them, and sanctify them, that they may minister to me as priests. And you shall make for them linen trousers to cover their nakedness. They shall reach from the waist to the thighs. They shall be on Aaron and on his sons when they come into the tabernacle of meeting, or when they come near the altar to minister in the holy place, that they do not incur iniquity and die. It shall be a statute forever to him and his descendants after him. In this chapter, we've been discussing the garments that were to be worn by the priests of God. The vast majority of this chapter has been dealing with the attire of the high priest. From the garments described here, there would be no mistaking the high priest among the people. The high priest would be wearing a white tunic as his inner clothing, and a blue robe with alternating pomegranates made of blue, purple, and scarlet, and golden bells around the hem as his outer garment. Upon the robe would be an ephod, with 2 onyx stones bearing the names of the tribes of the children of Israel on his shoulders. Attached to the ephod by gold chains at the top and a blue cord at the bottom would be the breastplate of judgment, containing 12 different types of stones, each engraved with one of the tribes of Israel. In the breastplate would also be placed the Urim and the Thummim, through which God would give his judgments to the high priest, hence why this breastplate is called the breastplate of judgment. Upon the high priest's head would be a turban, which had attached to it by a blue cord a gold plate engraved with the phrase, Holiness to the Lord. Completing the garment would be a sash of woven work. God commanded that this be worn by the high priest during his work in the sanctuary. By wearing this garment, not only would the high priest be separate from among the people, he would also be separate from among the other priests, for some of his work could be done by him alone. But just like the high priest was to appear different than the rest of Israel, so too were the common priests, which at the beginning were Aaron's sons. The garments made for them were to be for glory and beauty as well, meaning even though they differed from that of the high priest, that didn't make these garments any less special in terms of their importance, as it was the priests who wore them in service to God. And if God viewed these garments as glorious, and these priests as sanctified from among the people, so too should the children of Israel. Unlike the high priest, the common priest would not wear an ephod, nor would he wear a robe. He would wear a tunic, which would look like a long shirt, thought to have reached down to the ankles. These tunics would by necessary inference be made of the same material as the high priest's tunic, namely skillfully woven tunic of fine linen. There were also to be made sashes for them, which again by necessary inference would be the same as the high priest, which means they were made of woven work. For their heads, the headdress would be slightly different to that of the high priest. For instance, there would be no crown, but the New King James Version says hats, or more aptly, caps. Now, when I think of a cap, I think of a baseball cap, but that is not what's being talked about here. What is likely being talked about is a cup-shaped cap, similar to the Jewish kippah or yarmulke. This completes the official garments for the priests of God. Following the creation of those garments, Moses was to anoint, consecrate, and sanctify Aaron and his sons so that they could serve God as priests. In verses 42 and 43 of the chapter, God adds another article of clothing to be worn by the priests, although due to its placement at the end of the chapter, after God told Moses about anointing the priests, this piece of clothing does not appear to be part of the official garments of the priest. What this last article of clothing was linen trousers, or what we would refer to as long shorts or underwear. These trousers would come from their waist to their thighs in order to cover their nakedness. Since the thighs end just around your knee, the trousers the priests were to wear in the tabernacle of meeting, or when they would serve the Lord around the altar, would extend from the waist to around the knee. Now, why were these trousers necessary? Were the robes God designed not enough to cover the priest's nakedness? For most of the time, they were. However, if the wind blew underneath these robes because they were fairly light material and lifted them up, or if during their work their robes shifted or were torn, their nakedness could be exposed. The sanctuary of the Lord was to be a holy place, so this extra precaution in order to avoid the priest's nakedness being exposed was to be taken. This instruction concerning wearing these trousers to cover their nakedness and what part of the lower body God considers nakedness should give pause to the Christian. We are certainly not under the law of Moses today, and so these rules about wearing linen trousers are not bound on us. But Christians are commanded in places like 1 Timothy 2 verse 9 to dress modestly, which includes covering our nakedness. Now our bodies haven't changed from the time of Moses to today, and therefore what God refers to as nakedness remains the same. So if our clothing does not cover the nakedness on our lower body, which here God commanded the priests to hide from their waist to the bottom of their thighs, around the knee, then our clothing is not modest, and we should either change it or wear something over it that would be long enough to hide our nakedness. No, there is no ruler measurement above or below the knee that Christians can use to define modesty, but let's not be pushing the envelope. Let's dress modestly as God desires, for it not only shows the condition of our heart, but it shows our desire not to put stumbling blocks in front of others as well. With that, our time is up for today. The Lord willing, we hope you'll join us for tomorrow's discussion of Exodus chapter 29, verses 1 to 9, as we continue our walk through the Bible, one verse at a time.
I'm not ashamed.
Thank you for watching today's episode. We hope that you found it edifying and ask that you not only subscribe to our channel and podcast, but that you like and share this episode among your friends, so that the saving gospel of Jesus Christ can go out to the whole world.
Of his cross.